one of the things that we narrow in on is what attracts the demon to us. And so part of our modality is, as you work through the four phases of the protocol, the first phase is a prayer regimen that which actually be good for Lent. If you're going to look for something to do for Lent, we have it in the App Store and on our Libre Christo webpage. It's just a prayer discipline of set times of prayer and a withdrawing from the social media, which is one of the hardest things that people find is the withdrawal from social media. I just got some statistics from a priest, some Pew Research, I believe it was, on social media usage among young people, and it's astounding how much social media that they're using, hours and hours every day. The average is something like 10 hours, some crazy amount. So the input going into the brain is reordering our brain, so to speak. And so one of the things that we do is we pull back to limit what triggers the enemy might be using against the individual. It's triggering him and drawing him into high emotionalities of some kind, whether it's shame or guilt or anger or fear. And so by pulling back and reducing the amount of psychological triggers, and forcing that number one, it pulls back and helps to delimit that and minimize it. But also we introduce at that time a limit on what people can pray during that first 30 days, and we limit it to the daily mass reading. So we force you to pull your mind away from the world and then begin to focus your attention on the daily scripture readings. One, it clues you into the liturgical office, the liturgical calendar of the church,
Right.
and also begins to help focus the mind. At the beginning, most people can't do meditation or a mental prayer or Lectio Divina, so it helps focus the mind on scriptures, and so to reorient the thought process and the imagination. Because if you look at well, I'll get into that in a second. So it's based upon the St. Thomas understanding the human person. So, going back to the original question, we'll get into St. Thomas next, but why this is significant. So we encourage in our particular, what we do is to not tell the story. We find that, people come to us and they just want to go, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Okay. And then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. I had a 84-year-old woman who didn't need us, but was sent to us and said, when I was 15, a priest yelled at me in the confessional. I was 14 years old or 15 years old. And I was so hurt. Then I went into religious life and then I left. And here she is in her 80s, still complaining about the priest who 70
Scolded
years ago
her.
hurt her
Right.
feelings. And I said, well, I'm sorry to be Captain Obvious here. He committed a sin that was sinful, that was wrong. And he shouldn't have done that. But then again, you commit apostasy. You left the church for 30 years and you're still holding on to his sin and telling that story in your 80s. When are you going to let yourself get free of telling that story? So the more you tell the story, the more it brings those memories back in. And again, what the demon has access to is the imagination. In the imagination is all of our past experiences, good, bad, and different. Yours are different than mine. So he has access to that. That's the data set that the enemy has access to, and part of the middle faculties. And so the more we retell these stories outside of a clinical setting, let me caveat it. Now, if you're in a clinical setting, then you're working through that in a professional way, hopefully in a way that you need to tell the story less and less, right? But in terms of just when people say, I just need to vent, I always say, well, no, you don't, because you don't need to vent, right? You don't need to vent because the demon is attracted to that high emotionality. It's something that draws him to you, this high emotionality. It says, I'm wounded. I'm wounded.